Friday just got hotter, hockey fans. You know what I'm talking about. NHL today premiering on this hot Friday where we got to get you caught up on all the best things going on in the NHL, but most importantly, get you prepared to look ahead, get you involved and dove in to all things hockey. You guys know that I am super excited. You heard me talk about it with Dave. You heard me talk off Tom's ear. Anybody who will listen, I'm screaming hockey from the mountaintops, but now I don't have to scream it. I get to hang out with you here on Fridays, every Friday at 2 o'clock, but the best way to dive into the headlines, the news, the odds, the lines, all the things in the NHL is to case the league. Let's get into it. All right, so what is Case the League? Headlines, information, all the things that you need to keep an eye on when it comes to getting you ready for the NHL season. So we got to catch up on the week, right? When it comes to that, one of the largest parts of the conversation is the players and the injuries. 3 big injuries coming out of this week's results. So we got to start talking about Oilers. Connor McDavid. We've seen him go down before. We've seen other guys have to step up for Edmonton before his injury, sitting at 10 points through 10 games, 3 game-winning goals, 2 overtime goals, obviously why he's always a part of the Hart conversation, but he's looking to miss 2 to 3 weeks with an ankle injury after going out of the game versus the Blue Jackets nice and early. I think he only was in for about 47 seconds worth of a shift before getting knocked down with the injury heading into the boards. The next big injury that is going to impact the NHL right now is Avalanche's Ross Colton. You guys know I'm a Ross Colton fan, former Tampa Bay Lightning guy. Significant time going to be missed for a lower body injury, broken ankle, 6 to 8 weeks. That happened during the Blackhawks game. Now, mind you, he was the clutch player for the Avs thus far this season. We know the Avs got off to a really slow start. We know that they still have slipped up in certain games, looking like they have it in their control, and then letting go in that third period there. That's more of a goaltending thing, but regardless, it's going to hurt them not to have clutch Colton in the mix. Colton's results before heading out: 5th in points, sitting at 9 on the Avs roster. Also, one of the clutch players and leading in goals for the Colorado Avalanche. So while they have a lot of superstars, Ross Colton's going to hurt this team. And then the third biggest injury of the week, where everybody's hearts go out to Frederik Andersen because we know that he's been dealing with a number of situations. He's just trying to be there for his team. We have seen Andersen go out before and Kochkov come in to be a reliever, but he's going to be week to week, so not as long as McDavid or Ross Colton. But look, the Canes are one of the top teams for goals against in terms of not letting it behind them. So when we see Kochkov go in, we'll see if that dynamic changes a little bit too much. Canes have been on a fire lately, but a lot of that fire has come because of that offense. I mean, they're unstoppable, and it's running through the top 3 lines more than just sticking to the line. Kochkov played 42 games last year when Andersen had to go out. 23 wins he pulled off, but he did sit at a .911 save percentage, so the Canes may not be all that far off. But look, after we case the league, after we go through some of the bad news, unfortunate news, or whatever the case may be, we got to get to the positive, which is my 3 stars of the week. Now, if you're watching hockey, this guy's name is obviously top of frame when it comes to one of the best at the moment. Kyle Connor for the Winnipeg Jets. We saw the Winnipeg Jets win streak get snapped, but guess what? They're going to try and fight really hard to get back in that W column, and they can do it with Kyle Connor right here. 9 goals, 17 points. His plus rating and 3 game-winning goals, are you kidding me? But more importantly, it's the point consistency. Versus the Red Wings, 3 points. Versus the Leafs, 4 points. Versus the Flames, 2 points. Let me circle back to the Leafs one for just a second. We've seen some inconsistency in the Maple Leafs, and you guys know it's really hard for me to give them credit sometimes, but what did they do so well in this offseason? Bolster their blue line. Not to mention the aggression and the physicality the Maple Leafs now have in their play. Kyle Connor picking up 4 points versus the Leafs is just abuse in the most beautiful way, guys. So that being said, Kyle Connor deserves to sit at the top of the list when it comes to your 3 stars of the week. One of the next stars, which we'll get to talk and get the lowdown and insight on the New Jersey Devils from a different perspective later on here in the show, but Nico Hischier, I mean, he's just been fantastic. This is somebody where it's not new. We've seen him put on all-star performances for the Devils so consistently. Through 13 games, he has 10 goals, 5 assists, sitting at a +7. But what makes him stand out? Well, you're talking about a center that has typically had to fall into more of a defensive role, especially last season. Once some defensive players, Dougie Hamilton more specifically, went down for the New Jersey Devils, a lot of the forwards had to play a lot more defense than offense. Nico Hischier led the charge on a lot of that, but that read that he has, his hockey IQ, all of that is coming to life to create scoring opportunities for him. And you want to talk about a clutch guy like I just did with Ross Colton? No, clutch is the definition of Nico Hischier. So he gets the 2nd star, sitting 9th in the league when it comes to all of the flashy statistics thus far in the NHL. And then I promise you guys, this is not bias, but Nikita Kucherov has to be the third star of this week. Through 10 games, 9 goals, 8 assists, sitting at a +9. And then, okay, let's just talk about it. The most disgusting, the most ew setup for Jake Gensel to get a goal versus the Colorado Avalanche a few nights ago. I mean, this is what makes Nikita Kucherov Nikita Kucherov. This is why he's a part of the Hart conversation. This is why he is the current Art Ross Trophy holder, because his vision on the ice. And that was the biggest conversation around the Tampa Bay Lightning. Who was going to be able to match pace with Nikita Kucherov outside of Braden Point? How long was that development going to take for Jake Gensel? So many questions. Regardless, he deserves that third star because he is picking up right where he left off last season to help this Tampa Bay Lightning roster prevail. So those are my 3 stars of the week. But I mentioned this being a hot Friday. Not just because NHL Today is debuting, but more importantly because we have afternoon hockey, and nothing gets better than some afternoon hockey. With the afternoon hockey, Panthers versus the Stars over in Finland. So, of course, a lot of us are eyeing the Finnish players to make it a big hometown welcome. Well, outside of that, you're talking about 2 teams that equally have strong second period pushes. So that's where I see the biggest battle coming in hot today. But sticking to the Panthers side for just a second, they're coming off of 4 wins in their last 5 games. Some of those notable wins being the Vegas Golden Knights, the Rangers, and the Sabres. I put the Sabres in the mix there because they've had some touch-and-go moments, but they're still a quality offensive team to have to stop, and the Panthers did it very well, even through their struggles. Then the Stars are coming off of 3 of their last 5 games with a victory. Notable wins, I know this doesn't sound so sexy, but Bruins and Blackhawks are their notable wins in their last 5 games. I know, something a little nerve-wracking there. But one of the first things I think of when I look at this matchup, more so, you have to think about the goaltending that's taking place here. The Panthers are such a fire show when it comes to putting up offense. They're sitting at 30.1 shots per game, so it's going to be a big, big stand-up for Ottinger between the pipes. He will have to be on his head to keep this team from taking over. You're also talking about the Stars going against the best forechecking team in the league, so they're going to have a tall task ahead of them, but we've seen them not wear down so easily. We've actually seen them find sparks and hopes of life in the third period quite consistently. What both of these teams have, though, is depth scoring. That's what's going to make this game even more interesting. So while we want to talk about the Sam Reinharts and the Matt Duchenes, it might not be their show today. It actually might be, well, I almost said Barkov, but it might be Lundell, because that Lundell line has been tremendous as of late. I mentioned their points the other day. I mentioned their consistency. Not to mention, is it Lusterian's probably one of my favorite players on the Panthers roster because he's so consistent and key for that team, finding an offensive rhythm and sneaking into the mix there to set up his teammates to find the back of the net. So moving into players to watch. Of course, Sam Reinhart is at the top there. He sits 7th in the league when it comes to 16 points through 11 games, a +8, and 2 shorties on the season thus far. This is probably going to be a bit of a bruiser matchup. We're probably going to see a decent amount of special teams, but that's going to fall favorably for the Florida Panthers, not just because they're penalty kill, because of the guys that can score on the penalty kill. So what the Stars are going to have to do, Jamie Benn, I'm talking to you. They're going to have to be disciplined, keep it cool, calm, and collected if they don't want this to turn into a special teams bloodbath. Matt Duchene, of course, 7 goals in 20 meets. Rope Hintz, 2 goals in 7 games, and 18.2 shot percentage. And this is statistics specifically versus Bobrovsky for Hintz. Logan Stankoven, this is the guy you want to keep the closest eye on. He sits at the top for shot attempts, not to mention the amount of shots on goal that he has consistently gotten. We finally got his first NHL goal of the season a couple nights ago, but more importantly, he could be the sneaky guy for the Dallas Stars to help get something generated. Barkov, 5 goals in 6 meets versus Ottinger, specifically Evan Rodriguez. Put him on your long shot board, and then Carter Verhaeghe to probably grab a point in this matchup. But we got more to get to. My favorite plays of the day coming on the other side of this break here on NHL Today, so don't go anywhere. Stick with us here on SportsGrid TV.
He will be 2-7 against top 5 opponents in his 6 full seasons with the Buckeyes.
Now you're going to take on the road, one of the best rush defenses in the country in Penn State. You're already having trouble rushing the ball. So what does that mean, Ben? That means Ohio State is going to have to rely on Will Howard to throw the ball on the road.
The early line, only on SportsGrid.
Anyone that's been to a sporting event, the atmosphere before a game, I think Game Time Decisions has that same exact atmosphere. This is our arena. This is what we do. There is going to be an energy to Game Time Decisions that you will feel night in and night out. The excitement you get when you lock your bets in, when you're figuring out what you want to do, we can zone in on the biggest games each night. I want this to be the place that people come to before the games start so they feel as ready as possible to lock in their cards. We are going to hit every single one of those markets that you need to know about. We're going to go through every single thing, and I've got a great team behind me that's going to help me get the job done. There is not going to be a better place, I promise you, than Game Time Decisions to get that new information, react to it, and be able to then bet accordingly. We will have everything at our disposal, and we will use that to our advantage. I'm Kevin Walsh. Tune into Game Time Decisions from 6 to 8 p.m. Eastern on SportsGrid.
Welcome back into NHL Today here on SportsGrid TV. We just ran through casing the league, the updated injuries between Connor McDavid, Ross Colton, and then Frederik Andersen. But then add to the list that Matthew Barzal actually ended up going back to Long Island today because of an injury that he secured. He's got to get evaluated by the med team back in Long Island, so we'll keep an update on that one as well. But we got to talk about a bigger headline. We got to talk about something that needs to go to the sin bin. What's the sin bin segment? That's probably plays or headlines or anything that I just think is complete garbage at the moment. It needs to go sit in timeout for a hot second. And I'm sorry, Rangers fans, what's going to the sin bin is the management of Matt Rempe. You cannot put this kid in development, pull him out 2 games later to just put on a fight in a game for no freaking reason. And I don't say no freaking reason because he's not impactful when it comes to dropping the gloves. And yes, if you want to bring back the life of an enforcer to hockey, do so. But what is the strategy behind Matt Rempe? When you look at what he has done career-wise and how they should be focusing on developing a bottom 6 center, they're kind of, I don't know, hurting him more than they're helping him. Let's take it back to his WHL days. First of all, coming back from injury, Matt Rempe had to, get back into rare form when it comes to being a center. What is the role of a bottom 6 center? Being defensive-minded for 1, being somebody who can separate players from the puck for 2, and being someone who can create turnovers. Matt Rempe is 6'8". Why are we not using him for puck separation and turnovers? And we've seen glimmers of this ability, but going back to the WHL, was unable to play with the Thunderbirds originally, got cut, then accumulated an injury. Coming back from injury, though, after being forced to miss 15 games, posted 12 goals, 19 assists, 31 points, and that's in 47 games. You do the math on the average of his production per game. Then after that, 2021 to 2022, 17 goals, 6 assists, that's through 56 games. This is a kid that can perform and do a lot more than drop the gloves and practice punching himself in the face as well as punching others. So I'm not going to go into too much of a spiel. I'm so sorry, Rangers fans, but you're kind of doing a disservice to Matt Rempe and what he can actually contribute to your 4th line. He needs to hang out down in Hartford for a little bit. He needs to get more production going. If you're a defensive-minded center, you should not be sitting in the negative column for ratings when you're playing on one of the top rosters in the league. That is my spiel. That is going to the sin bin. Hopefully next week we'll be able to pull Matt Rempe and the New York Rangers out of the sin bin for his management. But getting back on a positive note, let's get into some favorite plays of the day. You guys see me post this almost every day on social media. And look, we had a bit of a hot streak. It got a little unhot, but last night we got back in the W column. So where do I stand when we're looking through today's play as well? Sabres versus the Islanders. I just mentioned the fact that Matthew Barzal will not be in the mix-up. Isles have been struggling to find the back of the net, and they have had equal opportunities in terms of shots on goal and creating scoring chances as the New York Rangers. Take that into consideration. Regardless, Sabres second period puck line plus 164 here. with a lot of the question marks, they still have great goaltending, them being the Isles. Sorokin has been off the charts. Varlamov has been great too. But it's the push and the momentum swing that the Buffalo Sabres challenge top teams in the league with in that second period. I like it. Let's keep it hot. Then, JJ Peterka, 1+ point. I like this because of his consistency and what he brings to creating rushes and helping out everybody else. When you talk about the Sabres, you always want to talk about Tage Thompson. And while he is fantastic, so is Alex Tuck. It's Peterka who's really going to help create those odd man rushes and get things going for this team to get past good goaltending and a pretty big defense. I say big in terms of size because the Islanders are very sizable out there. Moving on to Lafreniere, 3+ shots on goal. He leads the Rangers when it comes to shot attempts. Now, I went on a whole spiel beforehand of the fact that he's got a lot of patience and maturity to his game this season, but most importantly, finding those lanes to send the puck towards the net. It's really just been fantastic. So Lafreniere to pick up 3+ shots on goal. I'm a big fan of that. Plus, Senators are nothing to mess with when it comes to the challenge because here and there they've been a little bit more stout when it comes to the defensive game. Also, not letting too many more pucks pass them. Their issues last season was the turnovers, and then people were capitalizing off those top turnovers. Another key guy, Drake Batherson, 1+ point. That's coming in at -130. He's been a consistent guy for the Senators as of late. I already did my whole spiel when it comes to Kyle Connor, hence why he's one of my stars of the week. But did you guys remember the numbers versus the competition? 3-point game, 4-point game, 2-point game, 4 points more particularly versus a Leafs team that should have presented a larger challenge there. I'm taking Connor for 2+ points at plus money of 210. You want to see Winnipeg play a more consistent game. Now, the Blue Jackets are not to be dismissed. They're actually one of the top 5 teams when it comes to goals against. They've made it more complicated for offenses to go to work on them. So I think that Kyle Connor and his game as of late will definitely pull through. Speaking of the Blue Jackets, Cole Sillinger over just 0.5 point at plus money of 110. Give it to me all day because this kid has been really hot in helping out his team. 5 points in the last 4 games, 3-point night versus the Oilers. And I know this Oilers team is not what we were talking about last year, but regardless, it's the consistency. And when you're the age of Sillinger, when you're in the position that Sillinger is in, it's these confident plays that roll over into one another. I think that you just go with the guy staying hot. Bolts third period, puck line plus 156. And Bill Lightning's going to want some payback versus the Minnesota Wild, another team not letting up a number of goals. They had a lot of control in that matchup on home ice, but their ability to give up games in the second and third period are just really tough. They're going to make some course corrections. A key contributor to that is going to be Brendan Hagel, 1+ point, but you can't talk about the Minnesota Wild without talking about Kirill Kaprizov. So just take him for a goal because his consistency is undeniable. Plus 115 for a goal today, 5 goals in 6 meets, 9 points in 6 games. He's averaging more than a point per game versus the Tampa Bay Lightning, and it hurts me to say that, but you have to give credit where credit is due. Then Jake Guentzel. Take him for a goal today. Plus 165, 14 points in 13 games and 5 goals versus Minnesota. And we're seeing the chemistry come to life between him and Nikita Kucherov. That is a dangerous thing because once Nikita Kucherov starts trusting you and starts setting you up for plays, then you are in to get the payoff. And Jake Guentzel is now starting to catch those big reads and find those sweet spots and the timing more imperfectly when it comes to matching pace with Nikita Kucherov. So I think we're in for a great matchup, but more importantly, a lot of great hockey on this Friday. But the party does not stop there. We got some long shot lamplighters, which I'll touch on at the end of the show. And then regardless, we have a guest to help us break down the New Jersey Devils and the success that is Nico Hischier. I cannot wait to talk with my good friend Christy Flannery to get the information on Nico Hischier, the New Jersey Devils, and so much more. She writes for Hockey News. You see her work everywhere, but we're going to get a chance to talk with her on the other side of the break. So stick with us here on SportsGrid TV. Make sure you're following at SportsGrid, most importantly, and then you're not going to want to miss out because these long shot lamplighters, I've got a great feeling on, and we've been so consistent at least picking up one long shot lamplighter. Do yourself a favor, make sure you're following Christy ahead of the break so that when we come back and talk about Nico Hischier, the new contributors to the New Jersey Devils, and that goalie called Markstrom, yeah, you're going to want to stick around with us when we get back here on SportsGrid TV and to not miss out on the lamplighters of the day before this afternoon hockey takes place. Stay with us here and on the other side of this quick break on SportsGrid.
He will be 2-7 against top 5 opponents in his 6 full seasons with the Buckeyes.
Now you're going to take on the road, one of the best rush defenses in the country in Penn State. You're already having trouble rushing the ball. So what does that mean, Ben? That means Ohio State is going to have to rely on Will Howard to throw the ball on the road.
The early line, only on SportsGrid.
Anyone that's been to a sporting event, the atmosphere before a game, I think Game Time Decisions has that same exact atmosphere. This is our arena. This is what we do. There is going to be an energy to Game Time Decisions that you will feel night in and night out. The excitement you get when you lock your bets in, when you're figuring out what you want to do, we can zone in on the biggest games each night. I want this to be the place that people come to before the games start so they feel as ready as possible to lock in their cards. We are going to hit every single one of those markets that you need to know about. We're going to go through every single thing, and I've got a great team behind me that's going to help me get the job done. There is not going to be a better place, I promise you, than Game Time Decisions to get that new information, react to it, and be able to then bet accordingly. We will have everything at our disposal, and we will use that to our advantage. I'm Kevin Walsh. Tune into Game Time Decisions from 6 to 8 p.m. Eastern on SportsGrid.
Welcome back into NHL Today on SportsGrid TV, and as promised, I wasn't going to leave you hanging. Let's find out who our long shot lamplighters of the day are. All right, who are our snipers of the night? I got Jason Zucker for a goal at plus 310. Why? 11 points in 22 games, but it's his 7 goals versus Sorokin specifically that I think will come in handy for this team tonight. He was a big play in the previous W for the Sabres. So more importantly, I think that they're going to need his experience, and I think they're going to need his level of play to get past Sorokin and Islanders, who are definitely looking to get back in the win column. Next, Dawson Mercer. We got to give some love for the dog. Plus 310. 2 goals in 6 games, but 18.2 shooting percentage versus Calgary. Yeah, I cannot wait to see the competition and how this defense tries to slow down the Devils tonight. Then you got Will Cooley. Look, I've talked about this third line matching the energy of the top line for the New York Rangers. Plus 450 for him to pick up a long shot snipe. 1 assist in 3 games. I know it's not the sexiest statistics, but again, third line's been the driver. Cooley's been the guy trying to get the things going for the Rangers whenever anything becomes a stalemate, and the Senators can present the issue tonight. Then Mitchell Chaffee goal, plus 600. Only 1 goal versus Minnesota, but these young guys have started to find success, not to mention the rhythm that he is in with Nick Paul and Mikey Eyssimont line has been tremendous. He is a net front presence when he has to be, but he's also not afraid to go for those difficult shots, going over the shoulder pad. We're going to need those shots tonight for the Lightning to get past the Minnesota Wild. And then, look, Rasmus Andersson, plus 850. It's a little wild. 8 assists in 9 games, though. And look, we just missed the stare. It's been a minute since he's put the puck in the back of the net and stared down the opponents wearing the wrong jersey, in his opinion. And then if you want to throw one extra one in the mix there, it's not on the graphic, but Barkov, plus 310, 5 goals in 6 games versus Ottinger. So those are the long shot lamplighters that we got for the day. But the other thing I promised you here on NHL Today is a talk with my good friend, Christy Flannery. So let's face off with the Hockey News reporter covering the New Jersey Devils. What's going on, Christy?
Hey, Kasey. How you doing today?
I'm doing so good. I'm so glad that you get to join me for the debut because you're no stranger to this. They were the top conversation, they being the New Jersey Devils, during the offseason because they were the offseason winners. You brought in contributors right away that have made an impact, but we got to talk about your captain. So let's get to it. Nico Hischier's performance in leadership this season, 67 points in 71 games was last year, and he had to play a lot more defense. 4 game-winning goals, clutch as possible, but his shot attempts in there on and there forth, his numbers just speak for itself. What have you seen out of Nico so far this season?
You know, it's really funny because early in the year during training camp, I asked head coach Sheldon Keefe if there was anything that really jumped out at him in those initial conversations with Nico that made him say, this is why this kid is the captain of this team. And he talked about poise and confidence, but he also said there was an accountability in that Nico wasn't happy with his season last year, and he took it personal to how the team performed. And you just see that Nico's been shot out of a cannon to start this season. In addition to his offense, which is extremely impressive when you think about how Keefe said at one point he would have to kind of forego offense to focus on his defensive responsibilities. He's also taken 324 faceoffs. He's won 177, which lead the league. He's making the hits to, make the plays, and he's just doing everything that you really need out of a captain to start this season.
Absolutely. Probably one of the best two-way players in the league right now and a strong center at that. Now, we talked about them winning the offseason with some of these new additions, but two of those new additions being Stefan Nason as well as Paul Cotter. When it comes to Paul Cotter, though, he's been one of my favorites. He went from a fourth-line guy to a potential second- and third-line guy with the Devils. Also, leading in hits with 35, but most importantly, second with goals with 6 goals. What have you seen out of the new guys so far?
Paul Cotter is everything this team was looking for, and I know that the trade was, criticized at the time, but he has come in, and I recently spoke to him, and he basically said that he talks about the term being too good to be ignored, and that's kind of helped him climb the ladder, which he's done his entire career. In addition to the physical play, he just seems to make the players around him better. And with the loss of Curtis Lazar, who's going to be out indefinitely after undergoing a knee procedure, Cotter just became that much more important to this team.
Absolutely. And speaking of importance, you can't win without good goaltending. And Markstrom's coming in 5 wins and 9 starts, .903 save percentage, good mid-range saves, and also really good at tracking the puck through the middle. What has he meant to this team already so far?
He's meant everything, because I think for so long fans have seen so many struggles in the crease. And I said this from the beginning, the Devils don't need an outstanding goaltender. They need a goaltender that's above average. And that's what Jacob Markstrom has been producing, and he's been doing so well. And maybe he's not getting the love that he needs, like he deserves right now, but fans are going to see quickly that he is very much deserving of all the praise.
Absolutely, and we've seen Devil fans go crazy for this team. Chrissy, thank you so much for joining me. Hockey fans, thank you so much for joining us for the debut of NHL today here on SportsGrid TV. Make sure you join us every Friday from 2 to 2:30 to keep you invested in all things hockey. I can't say enough how much I appreciate you all. I can't say enough how excited I am next Friday's NHL.
He will be 2-7 against top 5 opponents in his 6 full seasons with the Buckeyes.
Now you're going to take on the road, one of the best rush defenses in the country in Penn State. You're already having trouble rushing the ball. So what does that mean, Ben? That means Ohio State is going to have to rely on Will Howard to throw the ball on the road.
The early line, only on SportsGrid.
Anyone that's been to a sporting event, the atmosphere before a game, I think Game Time Decisions has that same exact atmosphere. This is our arena. This is what we do. There is going to be an energy to Game Time Decisions that you will feel night in and night out. The excitement you get when you lock your bets in, when you're figuring out what you want to do, we can zone in on the biggest games each night. I want this to be the place that people come to before the games start so they feel as ready as possible to lock in their cards. We are going to hit every single one of those markets that you need to know about. We're going to go through every single thing, and I've got a great team behind me that's going to help me get the job done. There is not going to be a better place, I promise you, than Game Time Decisions to get that new information, react to it, and be able to then bet accordingly. We will have everything at our disposal, and we will use that to our advantage. I'm Kevin Walsh. Tune into Game Time Decisions from 6 to 8 p.m. Eastern